So we're going to start now. Please put on your headset. So welcome everybody to our Eurodic session here at the IGF. It's a pleasure to see that so many of you are interested and like to attend our session. What we are going to do today is threefold. At first we will have a resume and looking back to the Eurodic in 2012. It's my pleasure to have Anders Johansson from the Post and Telecommunication Authority here from Sweden. In the second part, we will discuss how Eurodic's role in the European network in conjunction with the other national IGFs, Eurodic as a platform, how we can enhance sharing European values, which are then later on submitted in global in the global IGF. And in our third part, we will look forward to Eurodic 2013. And I'm happy to have also representatives from the new host country, Portugal, here. But for now, we would like to start, and I hand over to Anders Johansson to give us a brief resume from Eurodic Stockholm.
Thank you, Sandra. I work for one free and open internet, and I'm employed by the Swedish Telecom Authority, the regulator. And internet has for many years been one of the cornerstones in the authorities, in my authority's business. I will briefly have two parts in my short presentation, and first to explain a bit why we think Eurodic is so important and why we hosted Eurodic 2012, and then shortly about outcomes of last Eurodic. It was fairly easy for me to get my Director General saying okay to host Eurodic 2012, and I think this is why I would mention three reasons for that. And one is that we have a long tradition in Swedish public governance of transparency. It's in this institution of Sweden since more than 200 years, and it's a fundamental value for all citizens, the transparency in public governance. And the second reason, I think, is that we, since 14 years, have a fairly big event like IGF, a national IGF in Sweden. We call it the Internet Days. It gathers some 1,000 people during 3 days, and there are a lot of dialogues. Many stakeholders are taking part. But that's national level. The third reason, I think, is that Internet freedom is a cornerstone in Swedish foreign policy. And Internet is the new frontline in the work for freedom in the world. And it could be mentioned that only 6 weeks before Eurodic 2012, the Stockholm Internet Freedom Forum was arranged by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with some 300 people attending. Now I will comment on the messages from Stockholm, and we have a printed and also on the net, of course, description of what happened in last June in Eurodic 2012. The theme was who sets the rules for Internet? And as a host of this year's event, we from the hosting side were very committed to the basic Eurodic principles in promoting dialogues rather than speeches in Eurodic. We wanted this happen and to be developed, since although dialogues has always during Eurodig been very important, but to make it even better. We thought it was a challenge. For example, I was myself very involved in two of the main sessions, and for instance, the VIPs, which we were very glad that they took part, like Commissioner Nelly Cruz, Queen Silvia of Sweden, Foreign Minister Carl Bildt, Vice President of the Parliament Alexandra Alvaro, our Minister Anna-Karin Hatt, Secretary General Torbjörn Jagland from Council of Europe, that they took part and that they followed the dialogue principles and didn't talk, they give short speeches and took part in the dialogues. And that was very contributing, we think. That was a fear for me, if it really would be like that. But it turned out to be good. Some few facts, which also you can find more about in this brochure. It was nearly 600 attendees, some of them remotely. 8 plenary sessions, 8 workshops, and 12 30-minute flashes on different subjects. There were also 5 pre-events in advance to Eurodig. For instance, the Nordic IGF Youth Forum, which gathered some 30 people from the 5 Nordic countries in Europe during 2 days. And they formulated 7 recommendations, which are also printed in here. And they expressed and put these recommendations forward during Eurodig. And some of them are also attending this IGF here now. I will only mention one of the 7 recommendations, and that was: Internet is now. The older people have to be included in the digital society. That's for me and Wolf and others. Thanks. In this one, we also have a paper with 2 pages on the messages and outcomes of the content in the plenaries. And I won't read it through. You can pick up this later, but I will mention the 9 fields that are commented with messages, and that they are democracy in Europe, cybercrime and cybersecurity, digital citizenship, multi-stakeholder model, children and the internet, data retention, citizens in the digital world, social media, and jurisdiction. So I think I stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Anders. Maybe I can ask one of our Eurodig core team members, Lee Hibbert or Thomas Schneider, Wolf Ludwig, to explain a little bit more how the process was conducted and how we actually proceed to foster this dialogue atmosphere. Lee, I think you could comment on this?
I'll be quite short. I think I'd like to hear from everybody, because there were a lot of people in this room who were there. We try very hard to be inclusive and open and transparent. It's not always easy. We have, established a planning meeting now 6 months before the event to make sure that we show transparency, that we are listening to people's proposals. We had over 70 workshop proposals last time. And to really reinforce the system of openness, inclusion, and transparency, so that people see where we're going. It's not a closed process, and we try hard through conference calls. We try hard to outreach. We know that many of you and us are multipliers for other people, other networks, and we're constantly trying to outreach in different events that we go to, which are not Eurodig events. So with this process of building outreach and inclusion is really important. We're going to do it in January in Lisbon. We want to build confidence in people's understanding that it's for you, it's for us, it's for everybody that wants to take part. So that it's no, the words we use are always open, always inclusive, never too late to get involved. We try to be flexible as possible and to include things even perhaps too late in the day, but we try that. And then the one thing which we improved this time around was the flashes. We created these little. We realized that there were too many proposals for 2 days, 70 or more, and we had to find ways to get their voices into the discussion. So we created little spaces whereby a maximum of 30 minutes to give the chance to speak about something specific, which is perhaps not for a plenary, but is still important, and certain people would like to hear about it. So on the side of meetings, or in parallel to certain sessions, we had spaces for people to talk to people, very, very simply, very informally, and we built more dialogue into those 2 days, and I think that was very useful. So we're constantly trying to improve. It's an ongoing process. But we're very minded to keep it really, really tangible for people who are interested.
Thank you, Lee. I know that Thomas has some comments as well. Thomas, please.
Thank you. I'm Thomas, working for the Swiss government. In addition to the inclusiveness of the process that we try to maximize, we also try to maximize the interactivity of the event itself, which is also another important element of Eurodig. We try to avoid long panels. We try to maximize the space for discussion in and with the audience. And this is something also with regard to IGF, where in many sessions, for my personal liking, there's too much expert talk and too little involvement of the audience. We had some sessions where we had no panel at all, where the whole audience was just discussing. And I think it's not very easy because people are not that familiar. Everybody wants to sit on a panel, and we tell them that there is no panel. They are normally a little bit shocked. But once they have experienced that, people tend to quite like it. But you need good moderators, and then you have a very interactive discussion. Thank you.
Okay, I take that point and like to open this discussion to the audience, because we have some of the workshop organizers, flash organizers here in this audience. I see Nicola, you have a comment. Just to introduce Nicola very quickly, he was part of the host country team in 2011 in Belgrade. He did a great job. I think you can tell us something.
I'm sure that I can speak without microphone, but in these circumstances, I'm not sure that you can hear me. So I wanted to underline this side event that you created in Sweden. It's a great opportunity to start thinking in that way. Eurodig is a process. It's not just event. So this youth Eurodig that you organized is encouraging for other groups or stakeholders to have similar events pre-Eurodig event or during Eurodig or few months before the Eurodig meeting, because it's a process. So we don't need just national Eurodigs. We now maybe need some thematic Eurodigs, regional Eurodigs, and this gathering at Eurodig is good opportunity to just on one place exchange all experiences that we had on different events that we can organize. So it's very good, and I think that other groups and stakeholders would think in the same way. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. Oksana, you have something to tell?
Thank you. working. Thank you. I am Oksana Prihodko from Ukraine, and I have a question for you all about name and nature of EuroDIG and IGF. I highly appreciate that in EuroDIG there is a word dialogue, but unfortunately in national IGF we lack sometimes dialogue, and I highly appreciate your words that EuroDIG is a process, that we need maybe thematic EuroDIGs and regional EuroDIGs, but we also need very active involvement of EuroDIG as a constituency in national IGFs. I highly appreciate all support from Lee, from EuroDIG, from Council of Europe, from European Union. It has to be on the constant and maybe institutional form. Thank you.
Thank you, Oksana. You can just pass the micro to Veronica. Veronica was one of the session organizers in EuroDIG Stockholm, and I'm wondering what you have to tell us.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. I'm Veronica Crețu, coming from the Republic of Moldova, and I was a lucky one to be invited to the EuroDIG because Moldova hasn't been really actively involved in this event. I think it was for the first time this year that a developing country from Europe, a non-EU country, had the chance to participate, which was great. I really appreciated two important things. One, that the organizers accepted emerging issues to be inserted into the overall agenda, and that emerging issues were related to the open government partnership and open data, things that are extremely important because there are countries that are already on board and they have some experiences to share. The flash sessions were another great opportunity to go into the details, to go deep into the issues, and to share with those who are interested things that they are able to learn and to take back home. So I think that this has been great, and thank you very much for allowing and creating opportunities for countries that are not physically always able to be present in such fora, in such dialogues, because then we can bring something back home. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Veronica, for mentioning the flash session. Not everybody in this room might know what we mean with flash session. This was somehow also an experiment for us this year to include this new interactive format, and I would like Wolf to tell us a little bit more about Wolf. I would like you to tell us a little bit more about the format of the flash session, how it was conducted, because Wolf is responsible for the program planning process. He was in direct contact with all the session organizers and also the flash organizers, and I want you to tell us a little bit more about this.
Okay, thanks, Sandra. Actually, the flash session was a novelty at EuroDIG in Stockholm. We didn't have this session format before at the previous EuroDIG events. It was a novelty, like in Stockholm we had this new organization structure via focal points to organize flash sessions. So first we had to call for proposals, then we had some clusters for the programming, and once we had an idea about the program structure and the issues on the program, then we were looking for focal points to step in, to take over and to organize the sessions in coordination with the core team and the program coordinator. Flash sessions is the new model which is different in various respects. We have first of all the plenaries, the main sessions, then we have the workshops, and the workshops can be are parallel, and another format is the flash session, which is only 30 minutes, but it allows to present either survey results, case studies, country examples, research results, and they are independently organized. So we called for ideas for flash sessions, we listed them, and then we asked the people in coordination with us, you organize it by yourself. We don't have many prescriptions. For the other sessions, we have session principles. Part of the session principles is that they must be inclusive and balanced, that they must be interactive. A flash session is a really different type, so it can be a presentation with a short discussion round at the end. So it's an additional idea, and it was a model. It was a pilot in Stockholm, and we realized it was useful, it was successful. We got good feedbacks, and therefore we decided we keep this as an additional session format for Lisbon as well.
Thank you, Wolf. Nicola mentioned it already that we had a couple of side events also, and one of the side events was the New Media Summer School organized by the European Youth Forum. I see there are some representatives here, and I wonder if you would like to give us a short feedback or a resume on what happened there. It's Tamara.
Sorry for this. Hello, my name is Tamara Gojkovic. I'm representing New Media Summer School, Web of Tomorrow is Yours, which has been organized already for second time. First one was in Belgrade, second one was in Stockholm, and I'm hoping that together with European Youth Forum and other partner organizations, partner international organizations, we will be organizing a third New Media Summer School in Lisbon as well. What we did during two New Media Summer Schools is that we had 30 representatives of youth international organizations who were coming from all around Europe and North Africa. And during New Media Summer School, prior to Eurodig, we were doing a bit of a capacity building of these young people so that they can act as multipliers. So it was not only 30 people representing youth, but also this representation was, I would say, on much higher level, meaning that they were representing organizations that are gathering many young people. And I'm hoping that on next Eurodig will be able to present also more of a youth perspective when it comes to content and within the program. And what is also very important for us is that we managed to bring 20 young people here, representatives of youth international organizations here to IGF. So I think this youth participation and youth perspective is very important for all the events, and I'm very happy to see that there are so many young people even here now in Baku, and hoping to see more people with good ideas and excellent representation both in Lisbon as well. I'm sorry, if I forgot something, I would like to ask my colleagues to add.
Now, yeah. I hope you like my voice. I'm also part of the team, and just to mention that here in IGF, it's our first performance in IGF. It's very important to say we managed in very last moment with the support of Azeri Youth Foundation and Google to have also 18 people here. So we are trying to not to have event by event, but also have a constant presence in the internet governance representing European youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. You're actually mentioned it already, or Tamara mentioned it, that it's difficult or sometimes challenging to conduct this multi-stakeholder process, and especially in Europe, which is a pretty diverse continent, we like to see Eurodig somehow as the umbrella organization for different national IGF initiatives, which is rather challenging because IGF processes are not very familiar in every countries. And I'm very proud that we have some of the representatives of national IGF initiatives here. I see Oksana from the Ukraine, I see Anna Neves and Pedro from Portugal, Yusuf from Finland, and there might be others I haven't realized yet. But I'm also very proud that we have Megan Richards from the European Commission today, because in Europe, there are so many institutions, and somehow we are in a leading role also when it comes to the issues which are discussed in the developing countries. And we are somehow in the leading role here. And I would like to ask Megan Richard what she thinks is a good way to combine all these efforts, all these different organizations, the national IGFs, to get together a sort of a European value, which is then submitted to the global IGF and in other forums as well. Megan Richards, I have the floor, please.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, I think that there has been a lot done already at national level in many of the countries, not all of them. Higher, lower is a problem.
Try this.
Too close. You want me closer? My goodness. Very now I have two. As I was saying, in many countries, the national IGF fora has been extremely useful. But of course, it's not systematic, and you mentioned already the diversity of Europe. Some have no IGF activity at all, and some have very active actions and developments. Sweden has cited its particular case. So I think that the Eurodig is a particularly useful forum to bring together best practices, to identify how we can work better, where good activities, recommendations can be made for each of the participants in Eurodig to take on these activities more actively. That doesn't necessarily mean, because some of the countries are quite small, some don't have perhaps adequate resources to have full-fledged, thriving, active national IGFs, but there are at least some elements that could be carried out nationally. And of course, at Eurodig level, at European level, I think that the coordination, exchange of information, perhaps interactive websites, using remote participation, there are other ways and means of making the Eurodig activity even more sensitive and relevant in the national participants. So I think all those are very useful activities. I think that the exchange, as I said, of best practices is something that could be very useful. Of course, all of that has to be supported financially, politically, and practically and logistically. And so everyone has not just an obligation but an interest in making sure that these activities work both at national level but also at European level. And I know the Council of Europe has been very active in helping to make sure that Eurodig is working very actively. European Commission has been very active as well. We have contributed financially to the pre-Eurodig event that took place in Stockholm, and we're very interested to make sure that this works for a whole number of reasons, not just because of the European element. The European aspects are very important, but also to feed into the real IGF, if you like, the Internet Governance Forum, because I think this way we will have an even stronger voice at the Internet Governance Forum, and I think this is really something that's very important and particularly useful. And one thing I have a whole list of things that I think could help that too at this level, but also at national and at Eurodig level. And those include better and more political commitment and political enthusiasm and buy-in, let's call it that way. You've seen that Nelly Cruz has come here. She was here for 2 days. She was very active. She did also some bilateral activities with Azerbaijan. She met the president, etc. But also she participated very actively in a number of open fora, in workshops, etc. Ed Vaizey was here, and at least one other minister. But quite frankly, from European level, there wasn't perhaps as much political participation as we might have liked. And I think this is something where all of us in this room have a real obligation to push and encourage our respective ministers and other political representatives to take a more active role, not just at the IGF, but also at your national level and also at the Eurodig level. Sweden is a very good example. For example, at this last Eurodig, you had very good political representation. We had also members of the European Parliament here, as we always do, and they're very interested and very active. And I think that the participation of national parliamentarians, both at your national level, at Eurodig level, and also at the IGF itself, is really very important, because they are important decision makers. They can pass the message back to their national authorities and influence decision making and policy making at national and European level. So that's one message that I think is particularly important. And I would underline this, and one thing that I think you can do nationally and even at European level to encourage the participation of politicians is to remind them how important the internet is to the economy. Most of you sitting in this room, with a few exceptions, are facing difficult economic and financial circumstances. Now, I know it's not the same as some of the countries outside the room, but compared to where we were even 10 years ago, things in many of the European countries are very difficult. The internet economy and ICT participation and the impact of ICT on economic growth is so important that the politicians cannot afford to forget about this. So this is perhaps a way of drawing in their attention and bringing them on board somewhere where it hurts in their pockets, if you like, to try to make them see what the important implications are for the future and how the open, transparent, and effective nature of the internet has an interest for all of us. Not that they don't know, but I think underlining that aspect is particularly important. Another aspect that I think could be useful too in bringing about this sort of national consciousness, improving political awareness also, is the introduction and use and participation of what we call digital champions. In a number of European Union member states, a digital champion has been appointed. And this has been a very useful driver to bring about awareness of internet issues, improving e-skills, e-inclusion. Each of them has their own particular dossier or interest, which is of course important nationally. So their participation at national level, at Eurodig level, and then of course ultimately at this level, at the IGF, is really very important. I know that the Romanian digital champion was here and participated at this IGF, and this is very helpful to provide the link between IGF at international level and also nationally and of course at European level. And then the last point I wanted to make too, it relates also to the importance of the internet for the economy, is the issue that we have in Europe relating to ICT skills and jobs. And again, it's very important, as most of you know, we are facing a skills gap in Europe right now in ICT. And I think that bringing about the awareness of the importance of the internet and ICT in general, and participation in internet governance fora at national level and at European level, by youth, by increasing awareness, will help to make internet and ICT related jobs and skills more attractive to youth, more attractive to our future labor force. And this is something that we really have to work on in Europe to drive forward this. And I think this forum is a particularly useful area to develop this and underpin the development of these skills. And it's something, of course, that Council of Europe has an interest in as well, in education and youth as well. I probably should stop because the panel's not supposed to talk very long, so I'm sure I've exceeded my time.
Thank you, Megan, for your remarks. A lot of the aspects you just mentioned have been discussed during this pre-event, which was jointly organized by the European Commission and the Council of Europe. And I wonder if, Lee, could you give us a short feedback and an update on this pre-event from Stockholm and about the discussion which took place there? And of course, I also invite the audience, those who participated in this level, to comment on this and to tell us a little bit about their experiences.
Okay, thank you. We had a very good pre-event actually. I don't recall exactly how many national IGFs were present now, but there were at least over 10, definitely over 10 national spaces there, more. And we had the director, Linda, with us as well, and we co-chaired this meeting. It was very informal, but very, very fruitful. It's quite clear that national IGFs, they want to know what other national IGFs are doing, and just to sit together and join the dots and to compare and contrast what they're doing, invite each other to their events. For me, what was clear was that there was a need to exchange best practices, information, of course, but there was a need for glue between them. Maybe the Eurodig is the glue, but certainly to step up just the general discussion conversations between events. So, like Nicola said, it's not just an event; it's a process, and the process is ongoing. So you find actually there are certain milestones towards an event. An event is good physically, but this pre-event was very good for that. Just seeing who your opposite number is in another country. I just think I don't want to spend time on this. I just think that it was very useful. I think the Commission found it very useful. I think the Council of Europe found it very useful. I think all the national IGFs found it very useful. It was. I think people kept saying it was good to be together and to do this together, and the fact that you have organisations joining forces and showing that, demonstrating that openly was a very good sign. I think it builds trust and confidence, and it's clearly what they want is more. They want more dialogue and more help. And I think one thing which is important to know is that I think next year, well, even this year, next week, for example, I'll be going to a national IGF in Norway. Olaf is here, and there's another one in Bulgaria next week as well. I have another colleague who's going to Bulgaria for a first national IGF, 2 new ones. There are more coming, I'm sure, and I'm sure that what we need to do for next year is to systematically attend and contribute in exchange in national spaces. So if there's about 16 national IG initiatives now listed on the website, and that will increase. I think personally it's incumbent that we take the talk that we talked in Stockholm and we walk the walk. So it could be somebody from the Council of Europe or the Commission, it could be somebody from a national IGF, but I think we need to try to, promoting digital champions, we can do that here. So be very, maybe we could start building capacity, even with people in the room and people interested, to go to different national IGF events. And that's, we will stay open for that. If you have ideas, if you think X should go to Y or vice versa, then let's talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Can we please pass the micro to the lady over there? She raised her hand earlier.
Thanks. My name's Helen Goodman. I'm a Member of Parliament in Great Britain. And I've never been to an IGF event before today, before this week. I didn't go to the European event. I didn't go to the UK event. And just reflecting on what I think would be useful from a political perspective, actually, in Great Britain, the debate doesn't really get beyond the business benefits of the internet. And speaking frankly, it's quite boring. And one of the good things about this week has been the richness of the variety of discussions. And if I could just make some suggestions of things that I think would be really useful for us to do at a European level in preparation for the UN, it would be those things where I think that Europe has something very special to contribute. So I think we really need to do something on our concepts of freedom, why our picture of free speech is different from the American picture. I think we should do more on child protection. I think we're way ahead of the rest of the world on child protection. I think we've thought more about the environment, and I think also it would be good to do something on the economics in the sense of not how this is very good for small businesses, because I think everybody understands that, but something about how competitive is the internet market, whether we can use competition rules to avoid economic power being used to abuse political power, and I think those could be specific European contributions to the international debate, which I would like to see us foreground. I mean, there are also issues where we have problems. We've got a big digital divide in Britain. I don't know how it is in the other European countries, but 15% of people have never been online in Britain. And actually, speaking as a middle-aged person, how do you learn about the internet? I mean, if you're not a school child, how do you really learn? Because you're told about it in such a simple manner. To be honest, until I was given this job, I thought it was about typing.
Thank you for your perspective as a first-timer at this forum. We have a queue in operation now. I saw Arnulf Storm from Norway raise his hand, and then Thomas. But first, can we pass the mic to Mr. Arnulf Storm, please? Where is the mic?
I'll be moderating with the mic from now on. That's fine.
Ludo, you know you do this very
good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Arnulf Storm. I'm from the Norwegian Telecom Regulator. That was very interesting with the perspectives, and that is, I also want to underline what the Commission said, Megan Richards, on having political attention to these issues. We also think is very useful. As Lee mentioned, we are going to conduct our first national IGF in Norway next week on Thursday, and we are happy that Lee from the Council of Europe will attend and then put emphasis and say something about the human rights perspective related to internet governance. Also, we are also very happy that we have got our Ministry of Transport and Communications coming and opening our meeting, exactly that, to try to then put emphasis on having more people engaged in these discussions, also from other ministries, because as we all know, the internet governance touches upon so many sectors and issues, as just mentioned. It is not only communications, it is a very variety of issues, and human rights and freedom and openness, and that's what we want to try to focus on. Our first IGF is the balance on freedom and openness and security on the internet, and I think that is also one inspiration that I got also participating in the conference in Budapest on cyberspace. That was triggered after Secretary William Hague had the London conference, and I think that kind of conference actually triggered and spurred political interest, because that kind of conference in Budapest was attended by a lot of ministers from different countries, and also that triggered, I was happy to participate in the Norwegian delegation there, and we had a delegation consisting of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Justice, and the Ministry of Reform, and us from the communications sector, and was headed by a State Secretary from the Ministry of Reform, and that, of course, then hearing all these ministers talking about the importance of keeping internet open and free space triggered the political interest on what is then going on, what is going to happen in Dubai in December, etc. So I think that kind of events will also trigger interests from political side as well, in addition to what we should also do nationally to try to have engagement of also the political side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next in the queue is Thomas.
Thank you. I also wanted to refer to the very interesting statement of the lady from the UK Parliament. And this actually shows why it's so important that the process of selecting issues is really bottom-up. So basically, Eurodig, what we offer is a frame that is to be filled by those who want it. And whatever comes in, we try to find a space for it. And now with the format of the flashes, it's we hope that it gets a little bit easier. So this is really it's really important that that the discussion reflects what the community, what the people want to discuss. That anything that people think is important has a space, and that shows that that this is really a good concept. I don't know if somebody will talk about the call for issues that we will launch today. I guess Wolf or Sandra will do that, so I will not jump ahead. I just wanted to mention this is why the bottom-up process of shaping such discussions is so important. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. This leads me actually to a question. The bottom-up process, which is promoted by Eurodig, and the multi-stakeholder model is something which is still not very familiar in many countries of Europe. And I know we have Oksana here from Ukraine. Ukraine is one of the countries from the former Soviet Union states which has a national IGF organized for the third time this year. And I would ask you to give us to share your experiences with us, what it means to organize a bottom-up process or to promote a multi-stakeholder model in Ukraine, for instance.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Really, when I asked about name and nature, I mentioned especially Ukrainian example. We really had our third Ukrainian IGF, but this time it was held in the manner of the Communist Party Congress, without no discussion at all, with very little participation, with no interest from private sector. For the first time, we had a lot of support and a lot of interest. And then on the next day, we have Forum Media for Information Society. We tried to overcome all difficulties with IGF UA, and we organized really live discussion, very interesting discussion, and we will try to follow this discussion online. But I would like to maybe concentrate on some questions. For example, we had a lot of discussion which issues we have to discuss on national level. Is it only about internal issues? For example, business conflicts or some regulations aspect. I would like to explain why I raised this issue. My proposition was to invite Russian representative to explain to us Russian position on ITU conference, and I was said that it's impossible to promote such ideas in Ukrainian forum. It was not for promotion. It was for understanding and for reacting on it. And we were happy that we had participation from the Council of Europe, from ICANN, from ISOC, and actually we expected a very huge discussion. But Russian representatives came to us also to criticize Russian position. It was rather surprising for us. Next question. In which language we have to organize our events. For example, again, thanks to Council of Europe, we have English translation. We organized our event in Russian language to attract representatives from a lot of post-Soviet countries. We had Russian, Belarusian. We did not have Moldova, for example. It's again only for financial aspects. We will be happy to invite all of them to hear all their concerns, to receive best practice from all other countries. And just now I was contacted by representatives from Hungary, from other countries, how we did our events, what are our mistakes and what are our results. I don't want to make impressions that everything is bad regarding internet governance issues in Ukraine. For example, we really have great participation from governmental structures. We had a lot of different governmental structures in Ukraine, and all of them participated in this IGF. It's really great improvement for us. We received support from our internet association, ISP association. We lack CCTLD involvement in this progress, and it limited interest to the event at all. So I'm happy to share all our achievements and mistakes with you.
Thank you, Oksana. You mentioned in your what you said the results. Results from those multi-stakeholder open processes is something which is critical, because on the one hand, these IGF events are open and free, and because you don't have to agree on any resume, and this opens mind and mouth. On the other hand, for some stakeholders, it's rather critical to present something to those person who finally has to agree for the travel costs. So it is always an issue, and for Eurodic and many other national initiatives, there is a sort of best practice to create, so to say, messages from their event. We have the messages of Stockholm here. You can take a copy if you want. There are many here. We have also messages from Portugal, from Italy, and from Berlin, and those messages actually reflect or are summing up the event in a way, without concluding or without agreeing on something specific, so that we can actually accommodate both. On the one hand, the open and dialogue, which opens mind and mouth, and on the other hand, to submit something and to make an outcome out of this. And this is also something which is heavily discussed in the global IGF fora, to produce something. I wonder if Wolf or do you have some remarks on the messages, how it is because you were compiling the messages from Eurodic?
Well, the messages are a learning process as a whole. Eurodic is a learning process from the beginning in 2008. The messages are based on the reports from the sessions. And at the beginning we started with fewer sessions. In the time between, we have now normally 8 main sessions, 8 workshops. In Stockholm we had even more side events, so we came up finally with around 30 sessions in 2 to 3 days, including the side and the pre-events, and this make it more and more difficult to compile messages. And the message, as I said, based on the session reports, we have to make clear now that if we want to have concise messages, we need conclusions from the sessions and not reports from the sessions. And the compilation of the message from Stockholm was much more difficult than last year from the compilation of the messages from Belgrade, also depending on the quality of the reports and the quality of the conclusions. But I think the process is an appropriate way to distillate issues and to distillate concerns from the different countries where national IGFs are conducted. When we get the feedbacks from the national IGFs to the European level, and also for the call for proposals, we will talk about this in the next part of this meeting here. This gives another opportunity in an inclusive way to collect ideas from different stakeholder groups, from participants about issues and concerns on the European agenda. And I think this is a very important element. The open process, the bottom-up process from the very beginning, what we did over the last year with certain difficulties, of course. Open processes are much more complex, time-taking, etc. It's also a question of how many resources you have, and to bring 70 proposals together to one program. This was a very difficult act, and the event is not over with the wrap-up session. Part of the process is producing some useful messages from the event itself.
Thank you, Wolf. My question to Megan Richard would be, how do you value such messages after an event? Do you think this is something we should proceed on? Is it something which has a political impact, which might have an impact on the business sector? What is your opinion on this?
Well, I think it's particularly useful to be able to identify conclusions or recommendations or best practices, as I already said. I know it's always difficult because there's so much discussion and the issues are so diverse. And when I mentioned the importance of the economy, it wasn't to suggest that that's the only important issue in IGF, either at national, European, regional, or international level. It was to attract the attention of the politicians, because even though you might find one or two who are interested in human rights or child protection or whatever it is, when it comes right down to it, as they say, it's the economy, stupid. So that was my argument for trying to push them a bit more in taking more active participation in an active role. But I think that if the politicians also can see these messages and the decision makers can see the kind of conclusions or the issues that are raised, the importance of many of the issues that are addressed, this will help them to raise awareness, to participate more actively. One of the things that Ed Vaizey mentioned while he was here was the importance of addressing internet governance at European level amongst the ministers. And this is something that Nelly Cruz will be looking at with her counterparts in the member states of Europe, of course, to see how they can address better and more effectively internet governance at European level. But anything that feeds into it from your various activities and Eurodig, something that's a bit more concrete. We can't possibly expect the politicians to look at all the transcripts of all the Eurodig sessions, but something like this that is condensed and identifies some issues, or where we have to move, or what can we do next, how can certain issues be addressed, what are the future emerging areas that are coming out. And I think all these can be nicely encapsulated in some of the conclusions that you make, or recommendations or best practices.
Thank you, Megan, for your remarks. We have a queue in operation now, and after those, I will move forward into our agenda to announce the next Eurodic. But first, it's Giacomo, and then it's Veronica.
I have two concrete proposals to answer to the last questions that we are discussing now. The first one is that when we will discuss about the proposal that will be received, I think that will be useful to start to apply what has been suggested by the CSTD method for reforming the IGF. So identify one topic on which the Eurodic could deliver concrete proposals to be addressed. So we can start to use and to apply at the European level the method that has been suggested for the future IGF. And this could be made on the basis of the most consensual proposal that we will receive on one of the most important topics. The second proposal is just simply to come back to the original form, because the Eurodic meeting at the very beginning were reporting to the Commission and to the Parliament. There were hearings preparing the IGF, before the IGF, in which we were bringing back the messages coming out from the Eurodic. This means that we need to be more efficient in delivering the messages, even in a shorter, concise form, as Ms. Richardson is indicating, in order to be ready for when this hearing will be made in order to prepare the European IGF position. This will be the most effective way to do. And we know that the legislation will end soon, so this is a window of opportunity for next year that we need to use absolutely before, and in order to establish a good practice that will continue even after the end of the legislation.
Thank you, Sandra. Just a very brief comment or suggestion. We are talking about the importance to engage more countries, importance of engagement at the national level. What I think is important to think about is, for that to happen, we need to connect the IG-related agenda and issues with the national or local strategies. We are talking about importance of raising awareness, importance of capacity building. As long as these issues are not addressed, just to give an example from Moldova perspective, we are having lots of initiatives at the country level in human rights, education, health, you name it. But to what extent we have the capacity to address them from the IG perspective? How you look at human rights from IG perspective, how you look at education from this perspective. This is where the international donor community may play an important role by inserting this into their strategies when they design strategies for particular countries. And then it's also important to integrate these issues and see how they fit into the national or country strategies for development. To give you an example, in Moldova we have recently adopted Moldova 2020 national strategy, but we don't have ICT in that strategy. It's not one of the key pillars. So here is where European Commission and other donor representatives would play a great role by bringing all the key stakeholders around the table, highlighting the importance of the issues and moving forward with this agenda. So it should come in synergy, and it should, we should start looking at it in a more holistic and broader way. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. Although I closed the queue, actually, I saw Yuzo raised his hand, so a very quick last comment on this issue from you, Ludo, please.
Yeah, just wanted to. I spoke to many people about the discussions that took place at Eurodic, especially as well in Holland, where I was the moderator of the Dutch IGF sessions. And what kind of struck me, and I know we spoke about this already, I just want to stress it one more time, is that, for example, if we talk about data retention in sessions and we have a discussion about it, obviously there should be more law people be involved, whether it's police, whether it's other people, you know, but then the discussion really makes sense, because when I brought the issues back to Holland, for example, a lot of people said, well, if there wasn't law enforcement involved in the discussion, then we can't really take the you know, the outcome of the discussion really seriously. So I think we should really focus, if we get the sessions in order, then focus on two different counterparts in that discussion, so we can get more of a strength from the recommendations that come out of the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ludo. So at this stage we have only something like 10 minutes left. I like to open somehow the new process for Eurodic 2030 after we had a really good discussion about 2012 and the general issues in Europe. And I would like to invite Ana Neves from Portugal to open. You took over in Stockholm, but to formally open the new process for 2013 now, because you're the host.
Thank you very much. Well, it will be an honor to host the sixth Eurodic. Yeah. I think it's the sixth Eurodic. So I attended the very first one in 2008, and while I was there, I never thought that I would host one of them 6 years after. Of course, lots of things have been said. I don't have anything special to add, even if I would like to underline some points that I think that the next Eurodic should tackle. So I think that the inclusive and transparent process, of course, we have to follow it, and to make the interaction, to have more interaction between all the stakeholders is very important. It was mentioned here the Budapest event on cyberspace. I think it was very interesting. In fact, we had lots of ministers. I was impressed, but each time when minister spoke, he left the room. So we didn't have any interaction. So I was a bit puzzled with so many ministers, but I was puzzled as well because we didn't have any interaction. And I don't think that we want that in Eurodic. We want ministers there, we want very high political people there, but we want them to be there, to have the dialogue with us. So for me, it was a very good surprise to have the Commissioner Nelly Cruz here and to have the opportunity to discuss with her yesterday on enhanced cooperation. So it is something that we should really fight for. So I don't want to have my minister there to talk for 10 minutes and leave the room. So I'm sorry, if you want a minister, I want a minister that stays there and that discuss with the audience. So we will see who can be there at a very high level rank, but that want to discuss with all the stakeholders. Another thing is the process. If we want a process, we have to start to work together from now. Otherwise, it will be an event. So I think that to start to work with the vulnerable people from now on with several countries, and I think it could be a good idea, and to present some results from this work together since now until June, and to present these results in Lisbon in June. So I think that we might publish something on this on the Eurodic site for the applications for the new event. Moreover, I don't think I have anything else to say. Only hope that Lisbon can be so good as it was at least the previous events. Let's see what will happen. We will do our best. We are very committed. We are very engaged. And I think that all the people that we have around us are very committed as well. And I think that we'll have a good event with your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, for this very much.
When?
You mentioned the...
You don't have this? You should. On the 6th and 7th of June, next year, of course. So please pick one of these. Thank you.
Sorry, Anna, to interrupt you. You mentioned the process already, this open process, and I posted it on the screen over there. You won't probably see that much in the audience, but please go to the Eurodig website. You will have our milestones to Lisbon, which are actually starting today with this open call for proposals, where Wolf will explain a little bit more. And the next step will be that we have an open planning meeting again in Lisbon in January 28, 29, where really everybody is invited to come along, either to participate remotely, we will organize remote participation for this, or physically to discuss the Eurodig planning process with us. And then we will have a second open planning meeting in conjunction with the IGF consultation in Paris, which will be in February 2013. And, registration will open at 1st of April. Please go to the website and check that out. But for the call for proposal, I like to hand over to Wolf Ludwig now as a program coordinator to explain us a little bit more how the call for proposal is conducted this year. And I also like to draw your attention to what I've posted right now on the screen, which is actually the submission form to submit your proposals, because everybody who wants to participate either actively or just by submitting themes, issues, is invited to fill in this form and to submit their proposals. Wolf, you have the floor, please.
Yes, as it was said repeatedly before, Eurodig is a process, not just a conference. It's an open and inclusive process, and it is based on our milestones from one event to the next event. And a very important part of the milestones is the call for proposals. We did this for Stockholm last year already. We announced the call for proposals for the previous year at the IGF in Nairobi. This time we use the Baku IGF, even if it's a bit later than the previous year, to invite the community, the stakeholders, everybody who is interested in the process to submit ideas and proposals until the end of the year. As Sandra said, the application, the form you can find on the website, but what makes a difference with last year, this year in our call for proposals, we would like to concentrate, to focus on issues and topics and not on sessions at this stage. I think the format, the session format, can come out of the issues, the concern and the topic, or an aspect of an issue, and then by the end of the year, when we compile all the proposals we received and we will list them as a preparation for the planning meeting at the end of January in Lisbon, we will see what could be the main topics for the Lisbon agenda and the program. There is also one aspect, as it was said before, it's it will be the sixth Eurodig event. And even if it was a rather successful process so far, we also would like to avoid repetition. So Lisbon cannot just be the same from the year before. It should have some specific aspects. And to avoid repetition, I would like to ask the community, please reflect twice. What could be another level of a discussion compared with the year before? There is a certain line in it. It was said here, the issue of child protection was raised 2008 at our first event in Strasbourg. In the years between, there are very different facets of the problem, of the challenge, of the phenomenon, what can be raised again, but not the same way it was raised the previous year. So the call for proposal is open. I hope it will be a very challenging round, and I'm confident that we may receive a lot of good ideas who are directing in a new direction, who may show new challenges, new hot burning issues, etc. And on the basis of these proposals, I hope we can compile, we can start the discussion process to design an exciting program for Lisbon. The first couple of weeks in 2013, and we have to decide on the program at the end of February, beginning of March, and then according to the milestones, the next steps will start with registration, etc. But you are welcome to contribute to the next step, what will be the call for proposals.
Thank you all for this very good explanation. Lee, you have some remarks?
Just one remark, which is to say that something we've learned from Stockholm is that trying to accommodate many people's proposals for workshops, it's very difficult. A new process step for 2013, I hope, as Wolf has pointed out, is moving from people and their ideas to issues, and making sure we make a choice of issues which are the hottest issues, which people want to hear about and talk about. But when it comes to creating the session, the workshop or the plenary, we need to get the right actors around the table. Ludo mentions it sort of regarding law enforcement, and I'm mindful of the fact that if we don't get the actors around the table, if we don't get the people who create the tensions, then perhaps we should drop that session, free that time for another session where there is that tension, because otherwise it's not so much fun to sing the same song all the time. We can do that outside during coffee. So that's a new process step, I hope. We really need your help to get those people around the tables to have that really strong debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. So if there are no more remarks or questions from the audience or from the panel, I don't like to eat up your lunch break, because we all know the queue is long. And I thank you very much for participating actively in this session. And well, I hope we see each other either in January in Lisbon or in June. And you are invited to participate at any stage. So see you around. Thank you.